Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Childcare Bridge podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your childcare center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Childcare Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's edition of the Childcare Bridge. Today is our continuation in the MAST framework, and we're at the place where we're going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, and that is team and talent. So in this industry, we are people heavy. We have to be within certain ratios. So it's not one of those industries where we can replace everything with AI. For example, we can't be outside of ratio and say, well, let's put a few extra kids in and make some extra profit. We have to operate in very specific regulations. So that means that we are always going to be people heavy and people centric. Now, in the MAST framework, I initially talk about marketing, and marketing does need to drive everything. Marketing is the cure. Well, Michael, how is marketing the actual cure to all of our problems and challenges? Because marketing is going to drive the leads and tours that convert into enrollments, and that enrollment, financial money, drives everything else. It allows you to charge a higher tuition. And charging a higher tuition allows you to pay your team rates that they not only deserve, but we're at a place where they are expecting certain things. So if I look at what are some of the key trends, what are some of the biggest opportunities for 2025 by way of team? Are there any big changes that I've been seeing across the landscape? The biggest thing that I have seen over the last year and a half, 2 years, is that while there are going to be some people that are going to join your center because they want to make a difference, they want to work with kids, they want to have that impact. That piece used to be the number one motivator. People wanted to get into the childcare profession to make an impact. But with how the financial status has been, with how the economy has been, with inflation, if you can't afford to pay your bills, how are you going to be able to have the making an impact, making a difference, override the fact that you're late on your rent, for example? So right now, the number one motivator for making a switch to staying happy is actually money. It's actually money. And if you don't understand that in 2025, you're going to continue to have this revolving door where if you're trying to pay your team $14 an hour, as an example, and a center down the street is offering $18 an hour, even $15 an hour. That extra $1 an hour, believe it or not, is having people to the place where they just are like, well, an extra $1 an hour, I'm just going to switch and start somewhere new. If you don't understand the lives of your team, it's going to be very challenging for you to pivot at all this year. Now, every time I say that you need to raise your pay, people start to freak out. Michael, we're barely making ends meet here, and that's a whole different conversation. You should re-listen to the accounting section of the MAST framework, and you need to be deploying profit first. Typically, the root of the fact that you're not making enough money is you're not operating at profitable ratios, or you're not charging enough. Those are the two. Or number three, you just don't have enough enrollments. So profitable ratios, having enough enrollments. If you're continuing to charge the same tuition that you've been charging for 10 years, well, people, they can't bear to pay anymore. How is that fair to you? It's not. How is that fair to your team that you're then saying, well, we can't afford to pay you more because we haven't raised tuition in 10 years? The easiest way to generate some extra cash flow, some extra cash to offset increases in wages is by raising tuition. Plain and simple. I've done multiple podcasts around raising tuition. Many, many, many times. So make sure you listen to those. But if I get back to this whole concept of your team is extremely concerned with how much they're being paid right now, you need to make sure you take a look at and do a pay audit. And I would compare yourself to other centers in the area, but I also would compare yourself to other businesses in the area. One thing that I didn't expect to see last year and then coming into this year is that people are literally leaving childcare to then go work at Starbucks. They're saying, well, why would I continue to work at a childcare center and kind of be stressed out, which we're going to talk about in a minute, making $14 an hour when I can go and be a barista at Starbucks and make $18. So yes, you want to look at what are the other centers in your area paying, but also you want to take a look at what are other businesses in your area paying. Because if you know, again, that pay is right now top of mind, the number one motivator. If you can't get it to a place where your benefits are competitive, you're going to have a very, very hard time not only attracting, but retaining good talent. So that's the first thing that you need to fully understand if you want to have a successful 2025 and beyond. Again, knowing that people are your most important asset, why are you constantly simply complaining? We have a Facebook group. I'm in all the Facebook groups. I'm at all the different industry events. And all that I hear when it comes to people, they're lazy, they're always taking time off, they're showing up late, and you've got a list of grievances. Are some of these things true? 100%. 100%. But if I flip it for you, I need you to actually look in the mirror and start to see, well, what are you doing to potentially cause some of that? Not only what does the pay look like, but how are your benefits? How is your vacation policy? How is your sick policy? What does your culture look like? When people are saying that they're getting stressed out, it typically is caused by some kind of imbalance that they see, this is how much I'm getting paid versus the stress level. So part of it is going to be how much they're making, but the other part is simply, how does it look by way of some time off? How does it look for breaks during the day? Do you have a little break room that is stocked with snacks and good coffee? Keyword, good. I'm noticing that it's all these little things. So when I walk into a center and I ask the team, do you feel appreciated? How do you like working here? And I'm asking these questions without the owner near me. And I'm making it very clear that this will be 100% anonymous. I'm going to ask everyone today, and I'm not going to write your name down. I'm just going to write the feedback that you give. And I ask 3 to 5 questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how appreciated do you feel? On a scale of 1 to 10, how well compensated do you feel? And a few other questions. And I like these on a scale of 1 to 10, because if I say, do you feel appreciated? Yeah, I do. Okay, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, well, a 7. If I would have said yes, come to a 7, to me a 7 is, yeah, I kind of feel appreciated. And then I'll ask follow-up. So I aim to get all of the statistical data so that I can look at the stats and see which one is off the most. Usually it's pay. Appreciation usually is middle to lower as well. And then I'll ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the benefits? And this isn't a full-blown employee survey. This is me when I'm there live getting to speak to people. I'm just trying to get a couple of quick hits. Trying to just feel people out to just get a vibe. And from there, I'll ask follow-up questions. So you said you rated your happiness a 6. Tell me more. And that's where I then start to get typically, well, I don't feel like I'm paid enough. I've only been here for 6 months. I only have 2 days off that I can take. I get scolded if I check my cell phone, even in the break room. So I start to notice a bunch of these little things that come up. I have never been to a center, so this is the spoiler, but also to me, the opportunity. I've never been to a center where everyone has been happy, they love the benefits, they feel appreciated. I've never been to one. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of on-site visits across all different centers, including centers that have ridiculous pay. Like the average teacher pay is like $30 an hour. And I shouldn't say ridiculous, but compared to other centers in the area. And they still have things to say. They might say that they feel that they're well compensated, but they don't feel appreciated. Well, why don't you feel appreciated? Well, no one ever says thank you. Give us good pay, but they never say thank you. So there's all these different things. Now, You might be saying, all right, Michael, you're sharing a trend around pay that I need to be hyper aware that pay is the number one motivating factor right now. But number two, what I'm trying to convey to you is that the trend that I see for this year is you having a deeper relationship, a deeper connection to your team. And you can have that by pausing throughout the week, visiting with each of these team members, having one-on-one meetings, sending out a weekly survey, handwritten letters of appreciation, random $5 gift cards to your team, making sure that the break room is well stocked, and just continuing to build on those things. And you don't have to do every single one of them right out of the gate. But if you know, again, that you are people driven and you were to look at your calendar for the last week, and I do this exercise all the time for myself, whatever I am telling you that my priority is this, I look at my calendar because the calendar is going to show what the priority is. So if I look at your calendar and it shows that you had a bunch of meetings with vendors about your playground equipment, if it shows that you had a ton of time off, whether that was planned or not, if it shows that maybe you connected with the director once and the rest was just kind of doing paperwork. And you're telling me, Michael, my number one priority is people, but your calendar isn't showing that. So some of the things that you can take from this particular lesson, number one, you have to relook at the pay discrepancies. You need to look at how far off you are from other centers and start to build a plan to close that gap. And I would highly encourage you to tell your team this is how you're going to close the gap and this is by when. Because I promise you that there's a lot of people that have quiet quitted already at your centers that you have no clue they've already quiet quitted. They're already actively looking for another job. But if you can start to tell them and show them, we're going to do this within the next 3 months, another 3 months later, by the end of the year, our goal is to have you making $4 an hour more. And here's how we're, as a team, going to get you there. Number two, it's this whole piece around team member happiness. At my organization, we have a director of team member happiness. Her job is literally to have one-on-one meetings with our team, in addition to their boss and supervisor, to check their happiness, to see how they're vibing, but not just professionally. And here's this secret sauce that if you take this particular lesson, you will build a completely different relationship with your team. And it will allow you to bridge that gap of not paying them enough. It'll buy you some time to figure that out. Now, it will not cure it, but it will buy you some time. When you start caring more about your staff outside of work and start showing an interest in what are they interested outside of work, how can you help them accomplish their dreams? I've referenced a few times in the past the book Dream Manager. Read the book, completely change the way that you think about your team, and you'll realize that the more you can help them actually accomplish things outside of work, that will build an incredible sense of loyalty. They will be enamored in working with your centers because you're showing that you don't just care about them as a cog in the childcare wheel, but you actually care about them as a person. What I have realized is that this can often be a thankless industry. And even for owners, like I have these conversations all day, every day, myself as well. It can be a thankless job. It's lonely at the top, but I can promise you that it's also very, very lonely when you are a childcare worker that feels like you're underpaid and don't have a great connection within the organization. But if the owner then starts to show, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about you and what makes you tick, and I want to learn more about some of the charities and causes that our team wants to support, and you start to show your money and your time being spent on some of those, it starts to just build things at a level that you have never expected. So my biggest trend for 2025 is not to simply, well, I just got to pay more. Yes, that's one of them, but that's not a new trend. The trend is that how can you care for your team at a level that you have never done before, that almost feels uncomfortable? How can you get to know them at a level that is unlike anything that you've ever done before, to where you know about their dreams, you're helping them actually accomplish their dreams. You're having those casual conversations. You're showing random acts of kindness and random acts of gratitude and thanks and appreciation. Caring more than you ever have, will take you to a level that you have never seen before with your people. Plain and simple. Tune in next week for the final masked episode of the trends that we've been talking about across all these different areas that you can not only just dominate this year, but actually feel fulfilled yourself. Fulfilled with your bank account, fulfilled with what you're doing with your team, with the community, with your centers, with the growth, with your family. All of that is the goal. Michael Tazzer signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.